July test matches, folks. Is it going to be a southern sweep? There's a bunch of test match series on this July. Number 1 and 2, Ireland and South Africa are going head-to-head. New Zealand, England. Argentina is hosting France. The Aussies and Welsh are going to battle. There are other places that are seeing rugby action. The Americas will see the Scots come to visit. The Pacific is seeing the Italians come to visit. But yeah, let's have a look at the kind of 4 Rugby Championship against 6 Nations series. Look at the kind of favourites, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on whether you think the southern sweep is on. But first, I need to say a quick thanks to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Now, what is AG1 if you haven't heard of it? It's a convenient and comprehensive supplement blend of over 70 vitamins and minerals, and includes other things such as healthy gut bacteria. My favorite 2 things about drinking AG1, firstly, mental sharpness. If I'm getting up at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning to watch rugby, I used to just down a big cup of coffee, but with the caffeine comes the inevitable crash as the caffeine starts to wear off. But with the AG1, you get the mental sharpness, but without the crash. And then also energy. Like by the time the game's finished, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, the sun's coming up, my kids are starting to stir. They're saying, Daddy, I want breakfast. Daddy, I want to play. AG1 provides the nutrients that make sure I've got the energy when I really need it. And it's really easy to prepare. Instead of mucking around with like loads of different supplements, it's just 1 scoop into some water, shake it up, and boom, you're away. So yeah, for those of us who are kind of conscious of our time, it's a real easy one. And it just kind of tastes like slightly fruity, slightly sweet, ever so slightly. It's quite a mild taste. Go to drinkag1.com/2centsrugby or scan the QR code which is on screen to save 20%. When you subscribe, you'll receive a free 1-year supply of the vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Thanks again very much to AG1 for sponsoring this video. So yeah, the first series, South Africa taking on Ireland, is super tasty because it is number 1 against number 2 in the world. And I think also extra spicy because you've got World Cup champions up against 6 Nations champions. And the fact that Ireland is the side that Rassie hasn't managed to beat yet. Now, obviously, he's not managed to play Ireland at home in his tenure with the Springboks. But 2016 is the last time that South Africa has beaten Ireland. And that was during the Irish tour of South Africa, which South Africa ended up winning 2-1. That's the series that saw CJ Stander get that red card for the shot on Pat Lambie, which was a bit of an awful one. Bongi Mbonambi made his debut during that series, so it's a wee while ago. But yeah, it's looking particularly tasty. If we look at the favourites for that one, Rugby Forecast, first match is saying South Africa by 9 points. So comfortable favourites for the world champions. The bookies are saying South Africa by 5 points. The overall series odds has South Africa at a 45% chance to win the series, 37% chance to draw the series, and the Irish chance of victory, so 2 from 2, only seen as kind of 18%. So the Boks pretty heavily favoured to break Rassie's duck over the Irish. What about New Zealand and England? Well, they're saying that one's going to be even more emphatic. It's been even longer since we've seen England come to New Zealand. It was 2014. Remember, that's the year before that kind of all-conquering New Zealand side went on to win the World Cup. So it was a heck of a New Zealand side. Nonu, McCaw, and Carter, and the list went on. Smith, Ben Smith, Conrad Smith. It was a pretty bloody good New Zealand side. New Zealand won that series 3-0. There are a few players who featured in that series who still play now. Like Marla started all 3 games for England. That one, Paddy Tuipulotu and Bertie Barrett were kind of coming off the bench. But the most recent game between England and New Zealand is some time ago now. It's the draw back in Twickenham. So yeah, it's been a long time between drinks, a couple of years, but 22 points says Rugby Forecast for the first match. So that's a big old victory, especially when you consider that Scott Robertson's only just taken over the All Blacks and Steve Borthwick's been for England for quite some time. And the bookies are saying New Zealand by 14. So I feel like that favours New Zealand a little bit too much. My gut tells me it's going to be a little bit closer, but who knows? Scott Robertson may have the kind of magic formula for that one. New Zealand, it says 71% chance to go 2-0 up in that series. The third one, Australia against Wales. Now, the last time they played a tour of Australia was 2012. Rob Howley took charge of that tour because Warren Gatland had gone and injured himself, I think, when he was on holiday. And the Aussies ended up winning that one 3-0, but it was a very different time for both sides because Wales came into that series more than a decade ago as Grand Slam champions. And the Wallabies at that point were still the Tri-Nations champions because they hadn't yet played the 2012 Rugby Championship. So both these sides were kind of in a different position. It was Robbie Deans' Wallabies, different position from where they are now. Kurtley Beale played in that series. He's going to still be playing potentially in this series. He's in the Wallabies squad. The Welsh squad is a bit different, so there's not... I mean, Alan Wynne-Jones was in that squad. Justin Tipuric was in that squad. Reece Webb was in that squad. So some guys who've only recently retired were in that squad, but this Welsh squad is looking most different. That being said, despite the fact that the Wallabies won that one over a decade ago 3-0, the most recent game's 40 points to 6. But that was Eddie Jones's Aussie side of the World Cup. So Australia under Joe Schmidt. Rugby Forecast reckons the first game they go with a win by 5. The bookies are saying Australia by 12. So kind of relatively comfortable favourites with the bookies. The overall series odds has got the Aussies at 66% chance to win it 2-0. Argentina and France is the last of these series. They did play each other back in 2016. It was also a 2-game series like we are seeing here. That series was split 1 game each. Now the French side since 2016 has had wholesale changes. And this touring side that the French are sending over in these July matches is experimental, to put it mildly. But there was one guy who started both the games in the 2016 series who is in the squad. That's Baptiste Serron. But the Argentinian squad features a lot more names that were in that squad that are still in this one. The likes of Matera, Montoya, Moroni, De La Fuente, Santiago Cordero. All those guys who featured in 2016 are still in this Argentinian squad. So the core of that squad kind of remains the same. But it is less than a decade ago, so maybe that makes sense. An interesting one, though, in terms of game 1. The Argentinians are the favourites with the bookies by 4 points. This is despite the fact this is the one series where the Northern Hemisphere team has a better rank than the Southern Hemisphere teams in terms of pure rugby world rankings. But the Rugby Forecast algorithm, which doesn't look at the kind of team selections, that one has the French as 4-point favourites. So it is certainly going to be a test of the French depth. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon these series are going to go? Which one, given the fact that according to the bookies, all the Northern Hemisphere sides are the underdogs, which one do you think is the most likely to get a win? The French youngsters over a newly coached Felipe Contepomi's Argentina side? Do you think Razor is still getting his ducks in a row with the All Blacks and Steve Borthwick's got a chance to put a cat amongst the pigeons there? Joe Schmidt has mentioned he has never felt as unprepared for an international coaching job as this one. He said with Ireland, he'd worked with Leinster before. With the All Blacks, he'd worked with the Blues before. But he's basically coming into the Wallaby squad kind of cold. So he doesn't feel that prepared compared to Gats, who knows Welsh rugby about as good as anyone. And Farrell and Russie going head-to-head. Russie, I feel like really wants to get one up over the Irish because he's not managed to do that yet. But you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks again to AG1 for sponsoring the video.